Imagine opening your eyes and seeing nothing but water. No land. No people. No sound except the ocean breathing beneath you and the distant hiss of something sinking below the surface. You don't know how long you were unconscious. You don't know how far you are from anything. You only know one thing with absolute certainty. You are completely alone. This is not a movie. This is not a nightmare you can wake up from. This is the story of Maya Chen, a woman who fell from the sky into the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and somehow found a reason to keep fighting. Maya Chen was 34 years old when she boarded Flight 2247 from Honolulu, Hawaii, bound for Sydney, Australia. By most definitions, Maya was ordinary. She was a marine biologist, quiet and precise by nature, the kind of woman who kept journals and always double-checked her seatbelt. She had spent the last 3 months at a research station in Hawaii, cataloging coral reef recovery data. Now, she was heading home. Back to her apartment in Sydney. Back to her cat. Back to the life waiting for her on the other side of the ocean. She had a window seat, row 17, starboard side. She remembers that detail clearly. She remembers ordering a ginger ale. She remembers the flight attendant smiling as she handed over the plastic cup. She remembers watching the Hawaiian coastline disappear beneath a blanket of clouds as the plane climbed into the blue afternoon sky. The flight was full. 212 passengers. 11 crew members. A routine trans-Pacific crossing, the kind that happens dozens of times every single day without incident. For the first 4 hours, there was nothing unusual. People slept. A child a few rows back was watching cartoons too loudly. Maya read a book, finished it, and leaned her head against the window, watching the Pacific stretch endlessly below. She fell asleep somewhere over the Central Pacific. That was the last normal moment of her life. She was pulled from sleep by a sound she would later describe as something between a thunderclap and an explosion. The plane dropped. Not turbulence. Not the gentle rocking of rough air. The plane dropped, suddenly, violently, like the sky itself had let go of it. Overhead compartments burst open. Luggage tumbled. Drinks shattered across seats. Screaming erupted through the cabin like a wave. The aircraft lurched sideways. Maya grabbed her armrests. Through her window, she could see the wing shuddering, and then she saw something that turned her blood cold. A trail of dark smoke, twisting from the left engine like a wounded animal trying to breathe. The intercom crackled. The pilot's voice came through, controlled, but with an edge beneath it that passengers could feel in their chests. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing a significant mechanical issue. Flight crew, prepare the cabin. That was the last announcement. Oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. The plane pitched forward. The screaming intensified. Maya pressed herself back into her seat, gripping the armrests until her knuckles went white, watching the horizon in her window tilt at an angle that made no sense, that should not have been possible. The ocean rose up to meet them. The impact was not like anything cinema prepares you for. It wasn't a single dramatic moment. It was a sequence of brutal, impossible forces, a wall of water hitting metal at high speed, the fuselage tearing, a sound so enormous it stopped being a sound and became something physical, something that moved through her body like a shockwave. Then darkness. Complete, total, merciful darkness. She doesn't know how long she was unconscious. Her best guess, later, was somewhere between 20 minutes and 2 hours. What she knows is what she woke up to. She was in the ocean. Still buckled into her seat, row 17, still attached to a section of the fuselage that had somehow remained intact, bobbing on the surface of the Pacific Ocean. Water was everywhere. In her mouth. In her ears. Her left arm screamed with pain when she moved it. Her forehead was wet and warm, and when she touched it, her fingers came back red. She looked around. Debris stretched in every direction. Seat cushions. Luggage. Pieces of aircraft she couldn't identify. A life vest, still in its plastic wrapping, floating 5 meters away. Personal belongings, a child's shoe, a laptop, someone's novel with its pages fanning open in the water. She called out. "Hello? Is anyone there? Hello?" Her voice carried across the water and disappeared into silence. She called again. And again. She kept calling until her voice broke. No one answered. The ocean was vast and indifferent and absolutely, horrifyingly empty. Her training kicked in, not survival training, exactly, but the methodical scientific mind that had kept her composed through years of research in unpredictable environments. She unclipped her seatbelt. She assessed her injuries, a gash on her forehead, a badly bruised left arm, possibly fractured ribs based on the pain that accompanied every breath. She was alive. She was functional. She had to move. Approximately 30 meters away, half submerged but still inflated, she spotted it. An emergency life raft, the bright orange kind that activates on impact, designed to deploy automatically in exactly this kind of catastrophe. One of the plane's life rafts had survived. It was tangled in debris, pulling slightly with the current, but it was there. She swam to it. Every stroke sent fire through her ribs. The salt water burned her forehead wound. She swam anyway. She pulled herself aboard. She lay on her back, staring up at a pale blue sky, breathing in short, careful intervals around the pain. She was alive. But as she lay there, catching her breath, she became aware of something that settled over her like cold water seeping into clothing. The silence. The enormous, unbroken silence of the open ocean, stretching in every direction to the horizon, with nothing, no land, no ships, no aircraft, no voices, anywhere. And she became aware of something else. The sun was moving toward the horizon. Night was coming. There is no darkness like open ocean darkness, far from any coast. Maya described it later as being inside a closed room where someone has removed not just the lights but the walls themselves, an infinite black space that pressed against her from every direction. The raft had a small canopy she managed to partially erect, but it offered little psychological protection against the sounds. The ocean at night is not quiet. It groans. It slaps against the raft's rubber sides with rhythmic, unpredictable force. Things move beneath the surface, large things, sometimes, and the raft tilts slightly, and your heart stops, and you wait. Maya did not sleep that first night. She sat with her back against the inflated tube wall, knees pulled to her chest, listening. Every sound was a threat that had to be evaluated. Every shift of the raft was a potential catastrophe. At some point, something large brushed the underside of the raft, once, then again, and she felt the shape of her fear change into something more specific and primal. She thought about the 211 other people on that flight. She thought about the child with the cartoons. She thought about the flight attendant who smiled handing over the ginger ale. She thought about whether any of them had made it onto rafts, onto debris, whether there were other survivors somewhere in the dark water around her. She decided to believe there were. She had to believe something. When dawn finally broke, a slow, gray bleeding of light along the eastern horizon, Maya Chen made herself a promise. She was a marine biologist. She knew this ocean. Not this specific patch of it, not the coordinates or the currents, but she knew how ocean systems worked. She knew about survival. She was going to think clearly and she was going to survive. She was going home. Day 2 brought the sun. Not the gentle, photogenic Pacific sunlight of travel advertisements. The real thing, a relentless, reflected, merciless force that bounced off every surface and seemed to find every inch of exposed skin with personal malice. Maya had a small emergency kit in the raft, a few protein bars, a sealed pouch of water, a basic first aid kit, a signal mirror, a flare, and a whistle. Resources for perhaps 2 days if used carefully. She rationed everything with the precision of someone who understood exactly how quickly it would run out. By day 3, the water was gone. By day 4, the protein bars were gone. By day 5, she began to understand what hunger actually felt like, not the mild discomfort of missing a meal, but a gnawing, insistent pain that occupied her thoughts completely, that made it difficult to focus, that transformed the sight of a small fish darting beneath the transparent bottom of the raft into something approaching desperation. She caught the fish with her hands. It took 4 hours and 17 attempts. She ate it raw. She didn't allow herself to think about that. She allowed herself only to note, scientifically, that it contained fluid and protein and that she would do it again. On day 7, it rained. She spread every surface of the canopy to collect it, used the emergency kit bag as a vessel, drank until her stomach hurt, and wept. Not from sadness. From relief so overwhelming it came out as grief. On day 9, she saw a shark. It circled the raft twice, slow and unhurried, a gray shadow passing through blue water. She watched it with absolute stillness. When it bumped the raft, once, exploratory, she struck the water hard with her palm, the way she'd read somewhere that you were supposed to. The shark withdrew. It returned twice more over the following days, each time retreating when she made noise. The sun was leaving permanent marks on her skin now. She used strips torn from her clothing to cover as much as possible, but the exposure was accumulating. Her lips were cracked and bleeding. Her eyes ached constantly from the reflected glare. On day 11, she began seeing things. It started subtly, shapes at the edge of her vision that dissolved when she turned to look. Her name, called from somewhere behind her. The smell of her apartment in Sydney, specific and impossible, drifting across the open water. She wrote in the condensation on the raft's interior wall, single words, small reminders. Real. Not real. Real. You are here. You are okay. Keep going. She talked to herself. She talked to her cat, to her colleagues, to her mother back in Vancouver. She narrated her actions aloud to stay tethered to reality. How much longer could one human being hold on out here? She didn't let herself ask that question directly. She answered it in smaller units instead. 1 more hour. 1 more day. Just 1 more. On the night of day 13, the storm arrived without warning. One moment the ocean was flat and black and familiar in its misery. The next, the horizon lit up with lightning, and the wind arrived like a physical force, and the raft, her only piece of solid reality in 360 degrees of ocean, began to move in ways that defied control. Waves. Real waves, not the rolling swells of regular ocean conditions but steep, crashing mountains of water that lifted the raft to their peaks and dropped it into their valleys with nauseating violence. The canopy tore. One of the inflation tubes began to soften. Maya gripped the interior line with both hands and held on, and the ocean tried, methodically and without emotion, to take everything she had left. At some point during the storm, a wave hit from the side and the raft flipped. She was in the water. Cold. Dark. The raft above her, a pale shape against the surface. She fought upward, broke the surface, gasped for air, found the raft's safety line with one hand and held it against the pull of current and wave with every remaining piece of strength in her body. It took 40 minutes to right the raft and get back inside. She lay on the wet rubber floor, shaking so violently she could hear her teeth knocking together, and she thought, very clearly, This is it. This is where I stop. And then, beneath the thought, quieter but absolutely certain, no. She sat up. The ship appeared on the morning of day 15. She almost missed it. She had been asleep, genuinely, deeply unconscious for the first time in 2 weeks, when some instinct surfaced her from sleep, and she opened her eyes, and there, perhaps 3 kilometers to the north, was a cargo vessel. A real ship. Running lights. A radio antenna. A hole. She screamed. She fired the flare, the single flare she had been conserving for exactly this moment, and watched the red arc rise into the morning sky. She grabbed the signal mirror and angled it against the rising sun, sweeping it toward the ship with shaking hands. She blew the whistle until she had no breath left. The ship continued on its heading. She kept signaling. The ship slowed. It stopped. A horn sounded across the water, one long, clear note, and Maya Chen's legs gave out beneath her, and she sat down on the floor of the raft, and put her face in her hands, and wept for the first time in 15 days. The crew of the MV Pacific Endurance pulled her aboard at approximately 0740 on the morning of March 19th. She had lost 11 kilograms. Her skin was burned across more than 40% of her body surface. She had a healing fracture in her left radius and 2 fractured ribs. She was severely dehydrated and showing signs of early malnutrition. When the first crew member reached her at the raft's edge, she looked up at him, this ordinary man in a work uniform, this impossibly real human being, and could not find any words at all. She was alive. 15 days alone in the Pacific Ocean, and she was alive. She later told the investigative team that there was no single reason she survived. It wasn't physical fitness. It wasn't specialized training. It wasn't luck, though luck played its part. It was something smaller and harder to quantify, a refusal, renewed every hour, to accept that this particular hour was the last one. The ocean is older and larger and more powerful than any human being who has ever floated on its surface. But sometimes, the ocean doesn't win. Sometimes, the person in the raft looks out at that endless, indifferent water, and decides, quietly, completely, without drama, that they are not finished yet. Sometimes survival isn't about strength. It's about refusing, one more time, just one more time, to let go. Maya Chen returned to Sydney 41 days after the crash. She continues her research in marine biology to this day.